And good morning. Tiger Talk brought to you by Hancock's Neighborhood Market and Perry's Floors and More. And good morning at 8:04. Welcome to Tiger Talk on this July 2nd, Monday, July 2nd. We're just 2 days out from Independence Day as our country celebrates its birthday, and I have the pleasure of welcoming into the WPKY studios Mr. Robert Ward. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm starting to think he's one of our resident historians. We'll call him that, but definitely he's a patriot, and we're going to be, I think it's the 6th year now, reading our Declaration of Independence downtown in Planters Park. Is that correct?
It is, yes.
And that will be Wednesday morning at 10 a.m.
Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. at the park. Bring your own chair if you want one.
Yeah.
It doesn't last very long.
No.
And as you're leaving, you get a chance to ring our tiny little version of the Liberty Bell this year. And
that's awesome.
Again.
Yeah, that was fun last year. I think everybody enjoyed being able to ring that bell last year. But we're here today to talk about that, but amongst other things, maybe just talk a little bit about our country's founding, some of its founders, and some of the interesting tidbits and things that have to do with our independence.
Yes.
Very important. And I'll let you take it and go where you want to take it, and I'll try to follow suit from time to time. And
under the did you know things, because I learn something new all the time because I love history. No, that's no big secret to anybody that knows me very well. But it was July 4th, 1776, the Second Continental Congress was meeting at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and they adopted the Declaration of Independence. They actually started working on it about the 7th of June, and on the 11th, they appointed a committee to draft the statement with the ideas that they had, and the committee included Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingstone. Jefferson prepared the actual text of the document, which was altered during Congress's debate from July 2nd through the 4th, and it adopted the altered document on the 4th. There were 56 signers. Now, they didn't sign the Declaration of Independence until August the 2nd of 1776, but the first time that it was read in public was on July the 8th, 1776, outside of Independence Hall, and a copy of it made its way to Williamsburg by July 22nd of 1776. In January, the document being, January 1777, the document was definitely treason. So it was not... it wasn't really widely known who signed it or anything like that until then. There were 56 signers, and I did not know that Rhode Island and Providence plantations had sent delegates. I just thought Rhode Island by itself.
It was Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, that's exactly right. And the delegates were from New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, of course, Rhode Island and Providence plantations, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North South Carolina, and Georgia. So these men knew that when they put their names to this, that they could be hanged. And unfortunately for the most of them, they lost almost everything they had over the course of the war. The idea was to announce to Great Britain why they wanted to separate from their rule. And if you get a chance, come on out and listen to us read this Wednesday, because you will see there are some things that really don't apply to us today. But back at that time, they were really, really important to the colonists. And I think it doesn't hurt us to hear this. If you've never read a copy of it and you can't be with us, look it up. It's online. You can find it and read it and just absorb what it's trying to say. These people were way ahead of their time.
They were. It's a beautifully written document. Of course, I think Thomas Jefferson was probably the principal author of the thing, but there were, like you said, there was a committee, and so there was much input from others on it. Right. There are writings and jokes out there that Benjamin Franklin, he was pretty particular about things, and he critiqued it a little bit, and there's some fun between of course him and Thomas Jefferson. But you're right, talking about ahead of their time and the thinking aspect of it. These men were brilliant. There's no doubt about it. These men were absolutely brilliant, and probably the most intelligent thinkers of their time. If you can go back to the ancient Greeks and the philosophers of that time, these guys, Plato, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, those guys. These guys were those guys of our time.
Exactly.
I mean, and especially when it came to political thought.
I know whenever Benjamin Franklin walked out of there and somebody hollered from the crowd, I think it was a lady hollered from the crowd, "What kind of government have you given us?" And his words were, a republic if you can keep it. And that has been the job of the rest of the country for all these years. This is the 242nd anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, when we separated from Britain. And the little constitutional arguments that came up later, they go on still today.
Sure.
Because the circumstances change, and some thinks it's necessary and some it's not. But it does not really matter which side you fall on. It's still, this country is meant to be a work in progress.
Right.
And the Declaration was the first step toward what we have now. And we still have a republic form of government. It's not a democracy. It is a republic. And you would be surprised how many years it took me to learn that, as much as I love history. But they were definitely a breed apart, those men in those times. And I think the lack of that will never be seen again.
No.
In our well, it wasn't in our lifetime, and it won't be in our lifetime now.
No, and I think you look back at the course of human history in times when things, what do you want to call it, divine intervention, stars align, or whatever phrase you want to use, there's no doubt in my mind that when this country was founded, the stars aligned, there was divine intervention. The words that came out of those men's mouths were in the documents that formed this country. From the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all those things were God-given, I guess. That's the way I see it. And so, you're not going to see that again.
No, you're not. And they, the founders themselves, gave the good Lord the credit. Divine providence is what they called it, providence. And I
don't think there's any other way you can say it.
No, I mean, when you look at some of the battles that were fought, and
heavily outnumbered.
Somehow we won several of them. We lost probably more than we won.
Oh, yeah.
But we won the ones when they counted. And once that the people everywhere kind of got involved with it, of course, you had the two sides. You had the loyalists. You had the colonists that wanted independence, and those two sides, there was a lot of guerrilla type warfare that went on.
Exactly.
Much like the Civil War, whenever it was being fought, it was something of the same thing. It was neighbor against neighbor, and sometimes brother against brother. So this is a thing that happens through our history periodically, and this is they got through it and combined the colonies, and you have to remember Kentucky was just a territory.
Right.
West Virginia was just a territory.
It was
Virginia
Virginia.
was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
At that time. But I think it's important that we do this, and really urge everyone, bring your kids. They aren't getting all this in school, and the teachers are not to blame. They have a certain thing they have to teach according to the way it's mandated for them, but it's up to us to teach your kids history. And that's what we try to do by doing this. We're not down there to show off or to, oh, well, they're doing that again type thing. And, there's always somebody that runs around saying, hey, ain't nothing to do in Princeton. Well, we set a lot of programs out there, and we see very few people show up. Yeah. There are things to do. You have to be interested in them, and we're urging everybody to come. I think it's important that we do this. I think it's important we remember our history. I mean, this ain't just about hot dogs, apple pie, and
I would say and fireworks. Yeah, I mean,
and
fireworks is celebrating, but you're right. I mean, I think it's important, just like you said, for people to take time and really ponder and contemplate.
Yes.
Those words and exactly what happened.
Yeah.
When this occurred, because It definitely altered world history as we know it.
Yeah, it definitely altered world history. A small nation like ours that was just getting started had never beaten a superpower,
and they were the superpower.
They were
of
the
time.
Yeah, between them and France, some Spain was still kind of out there a little bit too toward the powerful countries, but. The British Army and Navy was the best there was in the world. Mm-hmm. And by golly, we beat them. And there it goes back to your divine providence. There's no way we could have done it had it not been for that. The right men and women at the right place at the right time altered history. And I really do think that today we could still do that if we apply ourselves and learn. But I've always said, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. So you need to learn your history. I just think it's just awfully important that we do these kinds of things. I look around, and a lot of the people that help me with this, they're my age, and some of them are a little older, and some of them are a little younger. But I don't see as many young people as I would like to see out there doing this. I think somehow we need to try to influence them to think of the past times and how they fit in today with the things that we do in this country, and they need to get involved in these things that we're doing to remember and help teach history. I know that one group that we've kind of beginning to get together, the Sons of American Revolution, they do a lot toward remembering history and remembering these veterans, and they're to that era, and they do a lot of things that I think are good, and I'd like to see more people get involved in things like that too.
Right.
So I have shameless plug for the Sons of American Revolution.
We need to talk about that and some of those organizations that you can, get involved with history and genealogy and those such things. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about those organizations. A few of them that you can get involved with to learn either genealogy, history, those kind of things, but also. We'll talk a little bit about maybe how this event of reading the Declaration of Independence here in Princeton came about as well, and how this tradition sort of started. So at 8:18, we'll take a break here on Tiger Talk. You're listening to Tiger Talk here on WPKY The Tiger. Robert Ward, our guest today. We're talking Independence Day on The Tiger. Back in just a moment. Hancock's Neighborhood Market on Commerce Street in Cadiz is the place to shop for delicious homemade goodness. Hancock's makes their own fresh chicken salad, pimento cheese, salads, and a variety of mouth-watering desserts sure to please your entire family. While at Hancock's, be sure to visit their meat department for the best selection of USDA choice meats in the area. Hancock's Neighborhood Market in Cadiz, hometown, homemade goodness, and the Hancock name you know and trust for quality for your family. Hancock's Neighborhood Market on Commerce Street in Cadiz.
Since 1978, Perry's Floors and More has been selling, installing, and servicing homeowners throughout Western Kentucky with quality flooring and workmanship. Perry's Floors and More carries luxury vinyl plank and luxury vinyl tile, carpet, window treatments, and more. Quality brands like Mannington, Shaw, Tarkett, Beaulieu, and Flexitech. There's a reason why we say you can walk on our reputation. Come see Bill and Lucy at 127 West Market Street or call 270-365-9869.
All right, at 8:19, we are back on Tiger Talk, your hometown radio station. We're talking Independence Day with Robert Ward, our guest, and we will be, his group will be reading the Declaration of Independence in downtown Planters Park Wednesday, and that begins at 10 a.m. And Robert, this is 6 years now. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what organizations are involved with getting this done.
Well, I guess it was your tax dollars at work. I was riding around the mail route, and I listened to a lot of radio, and I try to listen to both sides on talk radio and things. And I thought, somebody needs to read the Declaration of Independence. How many people ever have read it? I had never read it fully.
Right.
I mean, we all know we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that from history. I could remember that. But I got thinking, how many people don't know that? How many people are like me and who've never read it? And I thought, wow, somebody needs to do this. Well, it got to be about 3 or 4 days before 4th of July, and I wasn't gaining too much ground on finding that somebody. So I told my wife, who usually talks me out of doing stupid things, I said, I'm going to do this if I have to be there by myself. And she said, well, you ain't going to be by yourself. I'll be there. I said, okay. I said, you've always done that for me, and she has. So I got to calling some of my friends who are in other historical organizations. Right. I find it really, really ironic that the first ones I called was Daughters of the Confederacy and Sons, SCV, Sons Confederate Veterans. Mm-hmm. I got people, let's do this. Called some historical society friends. I'm a member of several historical organizations, right. And so I called some friends and I said, hey, do you all want to do this? And they said, yeah, but how can we throw this together this quick? One of them even said, well, let's wait till next year. And I said, no, if we don't do it now, when are we ever? Let's do it.
Right.
And I said, if nobody shows up, at least we did it, and we know that we're doing what we believe to be the right thing. They came around to my way of thinking on it, which wasn't too hard to talk them into it. I got a good bunch of friends. Right. And anyway, we got to the newspaper, got on the Fax News time or two. They helped us out a lot. The radio station helped us out a whole lot. We actually had 40 some odd, close to 50 people there the first year we read it, and we didn't have but 3 or 4 days to prepare for it and get them there. So it really worked out a lot better. We were amazed that it did as well as it did. And anyway, that's kind of how we got it started. And Maggie Gammon with the Genealogy Society and Historical Society, both she helps me get things together now. In fact, I've kind of just let it slide to her and let someone do it. I found out with any kind of organization you're in, if you let people do as much as they're willing to do, you'll get a lot more help out of it. And so Maggie does a lot of the legwork for us now. So anyway, it's 6 years later, we're still doing it, and I suppose as long as I can be rolled up there to read, I'll
do
do it, or I will find somebody that'll take my place.
And y'all usually take turns. I think you have a few that'll read. You've got it sectioned off a little bit to where they read maybe 2 or 3 minutes at a time, maybe a little bit longer than that, because it takes probably. I think we've timed it before. It's about 12, 14 minutes, isn't it?
Somewhere along in there, yeah. I was always just kind of rounded off at 15 to 18 minutes.
Yeah.
But we have several different ones that read. And I ain't going to call her names because I will leave somebody out invariably.
Yeah.
And I know that seems to have worked for us. What I really would like to do is I'd like to see other towns like Fredonia, Marion, Eddyville. I'd love to see them doing their thing. Now, the Sons Confederate Veterans over at Katie's do a declaration reading, a bell ringing, and they even have a signing. We did that one year, and I just didn't have time to get that together this time, but they're going to do theirs at 10 minutes after 10. And they're in charge, their Sons of American Revolution are in charge of that.
Okay.
And I'm a member of too many organizations with sons involved.
They all kind of run, the sons and the daughters,
yeah,
of course you're
exactly.
a son, but
exactly.
but yeah, they run together. But that's cool stuff. And you know, I'm like you. I'm kind of a history buff. I love it, but more than anything, I love this country, and it's awesome, really, to think about how it was founded, the men that founded it, what they went through, they did. Most of them lost everything, or they definitely put their lives at risk.
Yep.
And to formulate this idea, obviously, what men have done down the road. It's not perfect, and like you said, it's a work in progress, but it is certainly an ideas formulated so that it is a government by the people, of the people and for the people, as Abraham Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address. But
while we may not always agree as Americans on everything that has to be done the way that we would like to see it done, we have to remember that if you will present your ideas, act human, even though you don't agree with some of what somebody else is saying, they deserve a listen.
Sure.
But then you deserve for them to listen to you also.
Yeah.
And as long as
we've kind of lost that, haven't we?
We have lost that badly.
Yeah.
And it's somehow we need to find our way back to it.
And that's how these men did it. There was
exactly.
a lot of disagreement in that room in Independence Hall in Philadelphia.
Sure.
Lots of disagreement.
Sure, you can almost bet that some of it near come to fist fights.
I'm sure.
That they ain't. We all ain't going to agree 100% of the time. But it's like somebody said, if you have a partner and y'all agree 100% of the time, somebody somewhere is not necessary. Well, we're all necessary to the function of this country.
Yeah.
So that everybody's idea deserves to be heard. You can present your ideas without standing up and shouting somebody else down just because they don't agree with you. Yeah. And I just think that we need to get back to that. We do, and it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt the country.
No, not at all. In fact, it'd probably help it.
I think it would. That's my opinion for what it's worth. There you are.
Mine too. These are just opinions we're talking about here.
Exactly.
But we're talking about our country's founding. We're talking about the founding fathers, and we're talking about something that's very, very important, which is the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly, and this being one of the base documents of our republic. We just need. That's the reason I feel so strongly that, and the others that assist me to do this, because without them, I couldn't do it. They I believe just like I do that this needs to be done.
Sure.
I know that any historical organizations that we have here in town, we have several. They're worth looking into, and they're worth your time to get involved. I'm, like I say, a member of a whole bunch of them.
There's a score of them out there.
I'm a member of the Genealogy Society. We have the George Coon Public Library has, in my estimation, of course, I'm a little jaded toward it because my wife works there. They have one of the best collections for the size town Princeton is, as there is in the country. You will be amazed at the people that come here from the different states and say, wow, we don't have anything like this in this small a town. So it's a really good place to go and to find out about your heritage, because, I've always said you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been, so you need to find out who you are, number one.
Yeah.
And do the best you can with it. Hey, there's always going to be dead ends. And if you like a good jigsaw puzzle, start doing your genealogy, because I will guarantee you'll find a piece here and there, and it just leads to more pieces eventually. And then some of them you may not fill in ever, but Genealogy Society is a good organization to get into. And the Historical Society that concentrates more on Princeton Caldwell County history than anything else is a good organization to get involved with. Fredonia Valley Historical Society at Fredonia is a good one, and they're concerned more with Fredonia Valley, and that's their area, and it just works out so well. And my wife and I are members of both of those. And then Sons Confederate Veterans, I'm a member of that. I had it was funny. My Union ancestors were from Tennessee. My Confederate ancestors were from Kentucky. I mean, go figure. You don't know these things till you start looking.
Yeah.
And then the Daughters of Confederacy, they're a really, really great organization for women. They go around and they help mark graves. They help remember the Confederate veterans. And which is like VFW and American Legion do.
Those guys
all
are veterans.
The stuff for, those guys were veterans too. That's true. The Confederates, they were considered declared veterans about 1948.
Yeah,
I
somewhere
believe.
in the 40s, I think.
Anyway, they're worthwhile organizations. Veterans has gotten our country to where we are. We have not kept the freedom that we have without the sacrifice of more people than we can count. And we need to remember all these people in any way that we possibly can. And I suppose that's what drew me to Sons of American Revolution, because they're remembering the patriots, the first ones that took up arms and defended what they believed was a just cause. And I think it's proved out that it was, because we have now, for all our faults and blemishes, we have the greatest country on earth.
No doubt about it.
And
especially this time before our Independence Day, this time of year, I always think back to the 1860s, 1863, in a little town in southern Pennsylvania, right this date, right now.
Yes.
Through July 4th, really.
Right.
And or maybe the 5th even.
Yeah.
And that was the Battle of Gettysburg, where at least 50-some thousand men on both sides lost their lives.
Yes.
And that's that's the Civil War. But still, those guys, that's part of who we are.
Yes, they
And,
they are. It was a battle of ideas.
Yeah.
The same as the colonists were facing whenever they presented this. This was a battle of ideas.
I've read some things on Robert E. Lee, and he was, that army of Northern Virginia had invaded, it had gone up into Pennsylvania, and the two armies met up. But I don't think, ironically, he didn't realize it was actually our country's Independence Day. Mm-hmm. He had to ask his aide what day it was, and he just said, "Boy, how ironic! Here we are on this battlefield."
Exactly, and at the same time in Vicksburg, Mississippi, the same day.
Yeah, same day.
Vicksburg was being fought, and they surrendered also.
Southern Theater.
This was, to me, one of those divine providence things, that this was the way we were supposed to go, and this is how it was supposed to turn out.
Yeah.
I shudder to think, had the country been divided by the time we got to World War II, I really don't think we could have fought off the Germans and the Japanese. In fact, I would think our country might have even been a little bit smaller and a whole lot weaker looking at the way it might have divided out. But then who knows? That's one of those speculation things.
But therein lies looking back at history and going, my goodness.
Right, exactly.
You're learning from it.
And that's why I try to keep urging people, come on, learn your history, learn your history. And like I said, I mean, if you just learn your history, your own personal history, that's a start. That's a good start. I urge people to pick up a book and read. There's a lot of good books, and I don't mean the political stuff. I'm talking about the histories. And when you go to look at a history, look at the people who wrote the books from that time period and afterward.
The text, the context they were writing in.
You will get a different view on it because they were closer to it than we are. Now, I've read a whole lot of books that was written by people 150 years later and all that, and while they are good and they have their use, your true histories go back to people's diaries, handed down, stories handed down, and that kind of thing. And I think that there is a lot to learn from that. And that goes back to where you fit in, and that's the reason I like to see people learning their genealogy and this kind of thing. So, well,
it's awesome.
Anyway, I've rambled on.
No, I think it's great, and I'm so glad you're here, and certainly appreciate your time. Certainly appreciate the dedication 6 years in a row now of reading our Declaration of Independence up at Planters Park.
I'm not by myself.
No, you're not. But
these people that are with me have been there mostly all 6 years, all of us. And
but it's grown every year. I've been there for at least half, maybe a few more of them. Maybe not all 6, but almost all of them. And each year the crowd gets larger and larger, and that's great to see. And we want to encourage everyone, if you're listening, if you're watching via YouTube, to come out because to tell you the truth, it might even give you a few chills. It'll chill you up to hear those words read, and it should.
It should, yeah. That's what I was getting ready to say. Well, I hope so, because it really should.
It should, because as you say, I mean, you know, there are some sacred texts out there that people read. This one's almost, you know, it's just under it. It's close.
It is
to whatever sacred text you might read for yourself. This here for our country is pretty close.
It is. It really is. I know if you ever get an opportunity to go to one of the Smithsonian exhibits in Washington, go to the place where the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence,
and
the Constitution, and see the document itself.
I've got one hanging in my house.
Impressive. Yes, we do.
And I've signed it, actually. I signed it in 1978. But my grandmother whipped my
I bet she did. Well, see, you know, when you love history as much as we do, you're going to do a few things that ain't just exactly what they want you to do.
That thing has been hanging in my house since I was a kid, and I have it now in my home. But I did put my name on it in 1978.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you listen to us read this and it doesn't make you want to sign it, I'm not so sure you're living in the right country.
Right. You're exactly right. You know, and I waited 2 years after the bicentennial to do it. I don't know why. I should have done it in 1976.
Well, you couldn't write then. You were just a little kid.
Oh, I could. I know. I was in third grade, but I think I just wanted to my penmanship. I learned cursive then. I didn't have to print. I think you're right. But yeah, 1978 was the year. But my bottom side certainly feels it, and you can barely see where my grandmother. I don't know how she did it. She got my name off there. I can hardly find on there where she did it.
I think that's great.
But it's the truth.
I think that's great. That's a good story.
It was. In fact, I've got to share this story. I'm playing Trivial Pursuit. I went on a gentleman's retreat with some friends of mine. We're playing Trivial Pursuit. That's what we do, you know, crazy stuff, you know. So we're sitting there playing Trivial Pursuit, and my brother pulls out a card and makes up his own question to the other guys out there. Said, what year did Ty Englebright sign the Declaration of Independence? Because they had known I'd done it, you know.
Yeah.
But none of them got it right.
None of them got it right.
No, but
you had to be there.
You had to be. That's exactly right. But anyway, thank you all so much for this, because it is an important piece of history, and to hear it. I don't know how many, it goes on nationwide in different parts and different places, but to have it right here in town by people that can read and are passionate about history and the document itself, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it is, and it's worthwhile that we've spent a little bit of time last few years doing this. Now, we're going to do this rain or shine. People.
Yes, let's emphasize
we may have
that.
to go stand on the porch of City Hall, which ain't
Right.
very big, and if it's raining and you come, bring your umbrella.
Right.
So we have plenty of room.
I think
for
the weather
everyone.
forecast is looking good right now, though.
That'd be great.
It's going to be hot, though. You may
I was
want to
gonna
bring an
say-
umbrella to block yourself from the sun.
Now, down there, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Not a lot
I'd
of
love
shade.
to see it about 70 degrees instead of 90.
Yeah.
But we have it at 10 o'clock in the morning because this gives you time to go out and celebrate the way you would like to, but you can still participate in this event. And that's why we do it when we do.
Right.
And so, anyway, I appreciate the radio station's time. I appreciate everything that the newspaper does for us. They help us get the word out. You all do.
Well, I think what we're
going
to try to do this year is record that and play it out over the air sometime after the news on Wednesday. That's what I'm thinking right now. We'll get that figured out.
Great.
So we're gonna, but we want to encourage everybody to come and hear it live.
Yes.
Don't wait to hear it on the radio.
Yes, come hear it live if you can.
But I think that's what we'll do.
Things can go wrong and we won't get it on the radio.
That's exactly right. But that's what I'm thinking that we might do after the fact sometime.
Well, that'd be good.
That's
that'd
something
be good if we can do that. I mean, it may be we may need to come down here at the radio station and read it here. We will have a sound system, but sometimes there's a lot of traffic going down that street right there at the park.
There is.
And we get drowned out. We try not to, but that's going to happen. And then different people's voices have different levels and that kind of thing. They can't all yell as loud as I do, and so it's just.
But bring your kids because
it's important.
Even the big kids. There's a bell down there, a replica, and
well, we got something thrown up there you can ring. I
that's
guarantee
right.
you.
So it's always fun to give it a ring after you hear it. So. 10 o'clock, and that's at Planters Park.
10 o'clock, Planters Park Pavilion, there next to City Hall, July 4th morning, and we hope to see you all there, and I can't urge you enough to come.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. That's going to wrap up this edition of Tiger Talk here on your hometown radio station, WPKY. The Tiger guest, Robert Ward, a member of several historical clubs and organizations here in town. Do come on out. It's Wednesday. It's down at Planters Park right there at City Hall, the reading of the Declaration of Independence at 10 a.m. Bring a chair, bring your family, and be prepared to listen to a beautiful, important document. That's going to wrap it up for Tiger Talk at 8:40 on this Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. For Robert Ward, Tying a Bright. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks for listening to Tiger Talk, your local source for information about your hometown. Tiger Talk has been brought to you by Tiger Talk brought to you by Hancock's Neighborhood Market on Commerce Street in Katie's Delicious Homemade Goodness, and by Perry's Floors and More.
The Tiger 103.3 FM.